The topic of this fireside chat discussion is very interesting, which focus on reinventing business models with digital innovation. And I'll build upon what my colleague in pre-lunch session spoke about, that the role of CIOs and especially the technology leaders in different organizations is not only limited to building application and connecting different work function, but the role of digital technology leaders are also in terms of enabling business opportunities, finding growth, and somehow the CIOs are becoming a kind of storyteller, one of the speakers spoke about. And technology itself is becoming a driver. And it's also enabling in terms of empowering different teams. And what we have realized over the past year, especially during the pandemic, that the resiliency has become very important. And that is why we see, the new digital environment requires companies to use digital technologies and platform for data collection, integration, utilization. And those things are being done in order to find out the business opportunities. Mr. Ghosh, could you share, based on your experience from the different sector that you're looking into it on a general perspective, are we on right track in terms of utilizing the digital technology that we have in order to find out the business growth, or do we need to shift the gear?
Hello. Yeah, good afternoon all of you, and thanks to ETCIO Spectrum team for inviting us for this session. I think, before pandemic, the scenarios were very, very different. And post-pandemic, the situation dramatically changed, because of the disruption started happening across all industries, and revenues got completely shrunk, especially in automotive industry. The revenues were almost like zero. There was no sales at all. And that was the tough times we went through, and as well as it was an opportunity to look beyond and look behind, like what we have missed out in the last few years, because auto was predominantly growing industry for the last 2 decades, and suddenly the slump really hit us all very badly. So when we looked at our past and wanted to become more agile and growth oriented in the future, we had to look at technologies and one of the enablers. And if you look at my industry or my organization, I think we started with the journey of HR transformation. So first we looked at people, where we need to enable the people and create people experience, user experience through digital HRM solutions, hire to retire cycles, the learning and development platform, succession planning, all this stuff was digitized, followed by the finance transformation, which was mainly on the scale of consolidation, compliances, audit management, and supply chain financing, then forex management. All this stuff we actually digitized. Then came materials and marketing, and we looked at those functions. So we looked first on the core support processes, then the enabling processes like marketing and materials, which is basically to do with the supporting the business in terms of generating revenue, or at the same time bringing in the right cost models for the organization. And last but not the least, we are now looking at a heavy digitization, or I will say a heavy lifting and shifting in manufacturing processes, coupled by supply chain. So I think your question was whether it is really helping the organizations or not. I will not say it is helping the organization, it is actually transforming the organization. So the new mode of working is digital mode, and also digital transformation is basically not a technology intervention, it is basically a change in the business process, business models, and also new way of looking at business. And when you are competing with in the global, I will say spectrum, you need to be competitive, one side in terms of cost, in terms of the best qualities you provide to your customers, also bring in user experience. I think looking at this complete spectrum, digital is the only way, or only, I will say, method or mean to reach those milestones.
Absolutely. Mr. Mundra, what Mr. Ghosh is saying, that digital is enabling business do a lot of things. But we notice that the large corporate organization, they have so much function, so much responsibility. Many a times you do not have so much time for innovation. And therefore, there is a lot of things happening in terms of big organization going out and doing some collaboration with the startups, doing some acceleration program. And in many of the cases, those had turned out to be a great boon. Would you like to share your experience? How do you look at this concept of getting the scale and agility of a startup, especially from the innovation perspective for a large corporate?
Yeah, sure. It's a very interesting question. I was at a NASCOM event a couple of months ago. They run a startups accelerator program, and I was talking to a lot of startups there, and they, usually they always make you a pitch, either for funding or for collaboration or for mentorship. And I was reflecting on it. I felt that, as much as they need us, startups need corporates. Corporates also need startup at the same intensity, at the same level, right? Because what they offer is something what big corporates cannot accomplish. They have the agility, they have the risk appetite, they have the technical prowess, which corporates will take forever to develop, right? So I think it's a very unique combination when corporates tie up with startups or smaller organizations which are really solving a problem in a very cutting edge manner. They're focusing in a very intense manner on a specific problem. So if corporates tie up and collaborate with startup like this, I think there could be a huge synergy which can be created.
Absolutely. Let me ask you one thing. What should be the two key immediate priorities for any technology leader in order to help in reinventing business model? If the two things that comes to your mind.
See, actually, first of all, I'll just touch on the earlier question. So, while coming to this event, I was looking at the data on Google, and it was an astounding figure. We had 77,000 startups currently working in India, and they are contributing around $8 billion revenue annually. At least in the current year, they will be clocking around $8 billion, and they are contributing a huge amount in our 3.2 trillion economy. So I think that is where the startups are really playing very good, and I think that's the future. Now, your question of looking at the business models and the opportunities where we should look at, I think 2-3 things are very, very important. The traditional business models like procure to pay system, order to cash, or employee life cycle management and stuff like that, those are the past. We need to look at business models from scratch. And the way the digital natives are really working today, say for an example, if you look at the startups like the food startups or the travel startups, they are completely disrupting the business models on a day in and day out basis. So similarly, the enterprises also has to look back at their business models which they operate, and look at the opportunities which they have in terms of digital intervention, mobile apps, or customer reach, or employee experience improvement. So all these areas have to be looked at, which were not earlier looked at from an enterprise side. Second thing is, there is a big problem currently happening with talent. Talent retention, skill development, skill building is a huge problem. So looking at talent, what we really need to have in-house, which we can outsource, which of the technologies or skill levels you should imbibe within your organization, which you should look at vendor partner support, like we have so many partners today, supporting this event. So I think this ecosystem has to be really thought about, who has to contribute where, and how to look at internal skill levels where you should have a management or tech ladder kind of thing, people can grow in that. These are the two very, very important things. Last but not the least, the customer, is changing. Their behavior, their expectations are dramatically changing. Somebody was talking about Maruti Suzuki 800 30 years back. Today people won't be buying a Maruti Suzuki 800. Nobody is interested in this hall to buy a Maruti Suzuki 800 for sure. They need features, they need functionalities, they need sensors, they need automation, connected cars, and all these stuffs are coming up. So I think the choice and the taste is changing on a dramatic basis, and the organizations, enterprises need to speed up their innovation, speed up their creativity to touch and how to say, like meet the expectations of the customers. That is one of the most important part which was not there. It was more of a seller's market earlier. So waiting time of cars and stuff like that. Now waiting time is still there, but the choices have changed. Personalization has come up. So it is not now customization, it is more of personalization. So this is the change which is happening in the current environment.
Earlier you mentioned on the startup part, and I believe the trust of, for example, that is happening with the fintech, the large banks have a huge trust factor with them. The fintech have the agility and scalability. If you can marry both of them partially, there could be the wonder, right? So in the end, I would like to understand from you two things, as Mr. Ghosh mentioned. What are those two things that you feel from a technology perspective that the technology leaders must focus immediately in order to help business grow?
Sure. First of all, my take is slightly different. The whole digital transformation or digitization that we talk about is not the core responsibility of just CIO and CDO's organization. It's actually an organization's responsibility. So CIOs really need to democratize the whole digitization agenda. Everyone in the organization needs to take part in this effort, not just the technology department, right? So you need to really find ambassadors or people who are very, very digitally savvy or digitally evolved in different functions and make them part of the journey so that they also come to the cause and they also contribute to the digital transformation journey. Then it really becomes an organization-wide agenda. I think that's one aspect that needs to be kept in mind. And second is, jokingly we always talk about this in Havells, and I always tell my team that where is my vitamin D? And D stands for data, right? So a lot of times we take decisions based on judgment and based on the experience. Oh, I have seen this. Oh, I know this. Oh, no, this is right. This seems right. This sounds right. There's a recent research which Forbes published, which said organizations which take decisions based on data are 19% more likely, 19 times more likely to make the right decision. And I think there is no intelligence required in this. I mean, it's commonsensical. But most of the times what organizations do is they say we are data-centric only when this is aligned with their thinking, right? Otherwise, data is put in trash. I think as CIOs and CDOs, we really need to bring vitamin D at the center of the entire decision-making in all the boardroom conversations and everyday parlance. So I think in my mind, these are the two important aspects which need to be kept in mind.
No, you are absolutely right. Also the fact that the data, once you have a better understanding of the data, it gives you the visibility. And based on that, you can do a lot of different things altogether. I think we have completely exhausted our time. So thank you so much for being such a wonderful panelist. Thank you so much.